Hello, I'm Damien Jones from H&H Classics, and welcome to a brief overview of the 120 plus motor cars we've got going under the hammer at the Millbrook Proving Ground on June the 25th. Now this is our first sale here at Millbrook, and we're extremely excited about this venue. It was a test centre for General Motors throughout the 60s and is still used by some of Britain's best loved manufacturers. Plus, it's been the site of numerous exciting car sequences and chases for various of Britain's best known motoring programmes and even the occasional Bond film. You'll have to bear with the security measures on site. That's part and parcel of being at this wonderful venue. There really is a wonderful cross section of vehicles going under the hammer. So the star car, certainly for me, is the 1957 Bentley S1 Continental H.J. Mulliner Fastback. Now this is one of just 97 right-hand drive cars built to design number 7400. It was invoiced to the television entrepreneur Peter Cadbury and then Ivan Cooper Saunderson, both of whom happened to be accomplished pilots, one testing jet fighters and the other a World War I fighter race. It was treated to an extensive chassis-up, body-off restoration from 2016 to 2019 by Richards of England and Paget Motor Engineers. Now, Paget are renowned for their work on the S-Series Continentals. The cost of the restoration far exceeded the guide price of $250,000 to $300,000. It's been refinished in its original and very handsome colour of velvet green with beige leather upholstery. It truly is a fantastic example. In fact, I doubt you'll find a better one on the market, regardless of price level. We also have a 1966 Aston Martin DB6 Sports Saloon. Now this, unusually and attractively, was originally finished in silver birch, which is obviously the colour for a DB Aston, thanks to Mr. Bond and his exploits. So this car retains its original engine. It's been repainted and retrimmed to its original specification of silver birch with red leather, subject to an extensive restoration in the 1990s and recently entrusted, I think, between 2021 and 2023 to R.S. Williams for a thorough engine overhaul and various suspension work and things like that. So unsurprisingly, it's said by the seller to be excellent mechanically and very good cosmetically, and that there are quite a few people who prefer an older restoration because if it's been to that level and it's mellowed to that degree after a couple of decades, it argues it won't get any worse. So that Aston Martin DB6 uprated also with a Tremec 5-speed. Again, guide price is £200,000 to £240,000. That wouldn't cover the cost of a ground-up restoration by a marque specialist these days. Also heralding from Newport Pagnell is the 1997 Aston Martin Vantage V550. Now these are rare cars. They weren't forgotten, but they were so rare that they're not at the front of people's minds in the same way that the cars they were more powerful for than in period are. So by that I mean, not many people remember a Vantage V550 was more powerful with its quoted 550 brake horsepower than a Jaguar XJ220 or a Ferrari F40 or a Porsche 959. Now Aston, they spent 1,200 hours making each of these cars. To put that into context, that will be enough to churn out 150 Ford Fiestas or 1.5 Rolls-Royce Silver Spirits. So unsurprisingly, they only ever made 239. The example we're offering for sale is the only one that was finished to special order in McLaren Carbon Metallic. The reason for that being that the first owner would also go on to own 2 McLaren F1s, a road car and an F1 GTR that he raced. The road car, again, you guessed it, was finished in McLaren Carbon Metallic. The road car was, you guessed it, finished in McLaren Carbon Metallic. Now, as well as having that wonderful one-off collar, the engine developed a fault under warranty. The car went back, had the engine overhauled by the factory 20,000 miles ago and uprated to 585 brake horsepower. So they were colloquially known as the brute in a suit, and you can see that. I mean, they were a near 190 mile an hour four-seater. So quite why people got wound up by the Lotus Coulter when these things were capable of about 20 mile an hour more. But anyway, this is very, very rare. 34,000 miles, just been serviced, main dealer service to maintain its great service history, guided 140 to 170, and I think that will look like a steal in a few years' time. We also have a 1960 Mercedes-Benz 190 SL, but it's not just any 190 SL. I mean, they only made 562 or so in right-hand drive, but this one is unique because it was supplied new to the 9th Earl of Shannon, and it's covered just 39,900 warranted miles from new. So it's certainly the lowest mileage right-hand drive 190 SL or left-hand drive 190 SL we've encountered. Subject to a 4-year photographically documented restoration. It's now finished in silver with red leather upholstery. Pleasingly retains the original engine. Comes with a factory hardtop. Really, it's as nice as a 190 SL that we've had the pleasure of offering. Really is a lovely, lovely thing. Vendors had it MOT'd in preparation for the sale. Nicely documented history file. They're such a pretty car. I mean, they are one of the prettiest cars from the 50s or the 60s. And again, that particular example, guided 120 to 140, that just wouldn't cover the cost of a professional restoration to that standard, even if you could find another car with less than 40,000 miles on the clock. Equally imposing, or arguably more imposing, if only because of its sheer size, is the 1964 Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud 3 Drophead Coupe. Now, this is from the same collection, the Merlin collection, as the Bentley S1 Continental Fastback, and it is just such a style statement. Really is. I mean, a very, very imposing motor car. So it was documented, subject of a documented circa 30-month restoration by the VTG group. That's all been covered in photos. So there's a full suite of folders for that. Full suite of photos for that. And it was a very, very faithful recreation of the two-door drophead coupe design that H.J. Mulliner executed in period. The power steering, the suspension, the brakes, the electrics have all been significantly improved while it's been in the Merlin collection. So I think there's bills for the best part of £24,000 just for parts alone for that. It's been reunited with its original number plate, 200 MMJ. It's finished in Tudor grey over maroon with beige leather upholstery. It's got a Monaco badge on the boot lid, and you can well imagine that cruising down to Monaco. A very, very stylish and elegant four-seater 60s drophead. We really have been spoilt with this sale with some very, very, very special Bentleys. And for some, the most significant of all, certainly among the pre-war cars, will be the 1937 Bentley 3.5 litre Van den Plas drophead coupe. Again, this has been entered from the Merlin collection. But more importantly, it's covered just 16,000 miles from new. It really is such an original car. Comes with the original factory guarantee in the original cardboard tube that was posted out from the factory with. It's got all its tools. It's got just the most incredible pattern, the most incredibly well-preserved interior. We've been told that it might well have been a prototype that Van den Plas presented to the Derby Works for them to assess, using Van den Plas as their preferred supplier of drophead coupe coachwork. It's just got such a rich history. And the vendor bought it through us in about 2012, I believe. And paid well over £200,000 for it then. Since then, he's put 1,500 hours of his own time into it, gently recommissioning it, going through it stem to stern. So it really is an exceptional example on so many levels. The final car from the Merlin collection, and no less special, is the 1974 Jaguar E-Type V12 Roadster. Now, this has had just 2 owners, including the vendor, and covered a mere 19,800 miles from new. It retains the vast majority of its factory paintwork. It is a matching numbers example throughout. It's got its original vinyl roof, which is correct, obviously. It's understood to be one of just 2 right-hand drive cars to be finished in turquoise with terracotta. That might sound a bit skew-whiff. Trust me, view it in the metal. It is a stunning, stunning machine. It's the nicest V12 Roadster I've ever driven, and if you're in the market for one, it comes highly recommended. So that, again, is well worth a look. A car that was restored a good long time ago, indeed we believe it was restored back in the 1970s, was the 1960 Bentley S2 Continental H.J. Mulliner Coupe. Now, this is a one-off. It was first owned by the eccentric Australian businessman Captain McLeod. Now, he had a factory in King's Cross which made precision tools for the aircraft industry, and he had very, very particular views about his motor cars. He wanted them to be lighter than standard, shorter than standard, more maneuverable, better visibility. So he had a very distinct brief. So believe it or not, with this car, he took an H.J. Mulliner design and then asked them to entrust it to FLM Panelcraft to be modified to his specification, which included giving it that very, very distinctive Manx tail. So it's a little bit of a Marmite car in terms of the styling, but it is historic. It is known to Bentley aficionados worldwide. The McLeod cars are really instantly recognizable because of Captain McLeod's aesthetic. So again, an original car, now arguably in need of another restoration to make it back to a concours contender or use as is. But, it's coming to, it's been in the current ownership since 1978. It's got a detailed history file, and really to order or to own a one-off Bentley with that kind of history, it's not particularly expensive in the grand scheme of things at 80 to 100,000. Much more conventional looking, and the final S-Series Continental in the sale is the 1964 Bentley S3 Continental Fixed Head Coupe. Now, this is one of the Corran line design cars. Wilhelm Corran first came up with this straight through wing design with the S2 cars. It's coach work by Mulliner Park Ward. This one's a very well-travelled example. I believe it's been to both to Australia and to America. It's one of only 76 or so that were bodied to Mulliner Park Ward's design number 2035 in both left and right-hand drive configuration. It's finished in a very striking combination of Caribbean blue with red leather upholstery. It's had £10,000 worth of mechanical freshening up in recent years, so it should go as well as it looks. And again, very handsome, very stylish car, and needless to say, but significantly more expensive than an Aston Martin DB5 in period. Another E-Type, which is coming from a very good home, a friend of the company who's been very kind to us over the years, is the 1961 Jaguar E-Type 3.8 Fixed Head Coupe. Now, yes, this is a left to right conversion, but the fact it spent that much of time in the States in a much friendlier climate means it retains more original Browns Lane metalwork than a lot of home market cars that have been restored. So quite a lot of collectors have cottoned on to that if you want a Jaguar that is original and not just been restored with very nice but pattern parts, buying a left-hand drive car, having converted to right-hand drive is a good way to go. Very, very pretty in opalescent silver blue, subject to much work, bought for a fantastic reason, for the vendor to honour his godfather. Just a lovely, lovely thing. Well worth a look. And again, 75 to 85,000 pounds compared to where E-Type 3.8 fixed head coupes were. I mean, that same car a few years ago, we'd have been expecting it to fetch well over 100,000 pounds. So again, good value in today's market. Similarly, the 1963 Aston Martin Lagonda Rapide, again, a rare thing, sometimes too easily referred to as a four-door DB4. But this particular example will be well known to followers of Classic and Sports Car magazine. It was one that was looked after by Martin Buckley for several years and featured in the magazine on a frequent basis. It was the 53rd of only 55 Rapides made. It's had 4 owners since 1975, and engine overhaul, respray and things like that was all carried out in 2013 to 2015. So a very, very rare thing. Nice bit of history to it, and guided at 75 to 85. On a completely different tack, but no less imposing, is the 1967 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray. Now, this is unusual because it was supplied new and assembled in as a knockdown kit in the Netherlands. So it's got that unusual history behind it. It actually spent a lot of time in the Corvette Museum over there, and that's part of the reason that the vendor and previous owners are happy to warrant the kilometerage. So that's 51,500 kilometers, which is just 32,000 miles from new. And you only have to look at this Corvette's interior to get a feel for that. The vendor is an American car nut. I hope you wouldn't mind me saying that. He jumped at the opportunity to acquire this car because of the low mileage. It's recently been subject to over £48,000 worth of work, including a respray in its original Eckhart blue metallic. Again, the interior was left untouched. It's got its original white soft top, original engine. It's just a really, really great example of a vet. And for a lot of people, the C2 cars, this generation, the original Stingray as two words, are as good as it gets. We've also got, for those who want to put their own stamp on things, a 1967 Aston Martin DB6 Project. Now, yes, this requires a lot of work, but at least you know what you're starting with. You're not buying a tired car that when you cut into it, just scares the bejesus out of you. This is something that you can see what you're buying, you can cost it, and you can have it restored to your specifications. So if you want to go down the James Bond route and have it silver birch, have it silver birch. Guided at 60, 70,000, depending on your skill set, you could bring that up to standard for, well, certainly less than a professional restorer. Jumping forward 30 years is the 1997 Aston Martin Virage Volante wide body. Now, these are very visually impressive cars. This one has done just 25,000 miles from new. It is rare as hen's teeth. I believe it's one of only 26 right-hand drive Virage Volantes built by the factory with the optional wide bodywork. It's had something like £21,000 spent on it with RS Williams in January 2022. Nicely specified. And just as a more modern Aston Martin that's got that visual punch, takes some beating. And again, something that really will be, these are they've got their roots in the pre-Ford era. I think they are a car that will just sort of climb in value. Another car that's already begun to climb in value is the 1995 Dodge Viper RT10 Roadster. And the example we have on offer is a European market car. But what makes it really special is that it's done just 9,000 miles from new. So, 9,000 kilometers from new. So that is just about 6,000 miles. Been part of a private collection since 2009. It's got all the weather equipment with it. These are just insane motor cars. Really, hats off to Dodge for building them, for building that modern take on the Cobra, which is in some ways even more extreme. If you wanted to buy one to salt away, to have in the collection, just as this has been in a private collection, certainly worth considering. Being summed up as the Lord Byron of American muscle cars, mad, bad, and dangerous to know. So, but few have covered that few mileage, or that's modest an odometer reading. We've got various Ferraris in the sale. For some, the most iconic will be the 1988 Ferrari 328 GTS. Now, that's a desirable UK supplied car. It's finished in Rosso Corsa with crema, that iconic red and cream combination, and it's one of only 543 cars that were built for the UK market, documented 47,500 miles from new. It's said to have an exceptional service history and maintenance history from day one. It's got the original book pack, jack, toolkit, Maranello concessionaires, number plates, really, really lovely looking thing. Another lovely looking thing, if you pardon the phrase, is the 1930 Lagonda 3-litre Tourer. Now, this is a car that the vendor has really used and enjoyed. Subject of an older restoration, but you can tell it was done right just by the sheer number of miles that the vendor has managed to cover in this vintage Lagonda. Great, straight six, 3-litre overhead valve engine. Absolutely just wonderful vintage looking car. Many of the thrills of a WO Bentley at a fraction of the price tag. So that's understood to retain its original semi-sports coachwork, and just a great looking thing at 50 to 60,000. So can't get many more imposing vintage cars for that sort of money. We're also fortunate enough to have been asked to sell, again, a couple of real rarities, including a 1905 Dulager Clayette 20 horsepower Laundelette. So now I apologise to anybody if I've murdered the pronunciation of that. So, but Dulager were a very interesting manufacturer in that they were one of France's earliest Grand Marques. So they were valued from a stock capitalisation point of view in the Edwardian era ahead of the Renault Freres, ahead of Peugeot. They were synonymous with some of the best engineered and most expensive cars to come out of France, and they concentrated their efforts on the domestic market. Now, this car, you've got a big capacity 4-cylinder engine, I believe it's over 6 litres, 4-speed transmission, chain drive, really nicely detailed coachwork, just a fabulous, fabulous looking Edwardian, so much style and panache, and so hard to believe that it's 120 years old. A car that is much less difficult to believe in terms of its age is the 2009 Bentley Arnage R, which has covered just 9,000 miles from new. Now, that car was initially retained by the factory for their press and special car department. It's been specified to a very, very, very extensive degree, so it's got a factory sunroof. Now, those were a stupidly expensive option for Rolls-Royce and Bentley. In fact, they typically used to cost as much as a small hatchback. So it's got a fabulous combination of tungsten grey with magnolia, dark wood veneers, the optional 6-spoke 19-inch alloy wheels. Because it's one of the very late Arnage Rs, not only have you had the engine boosted to a faintly nuts 450 brake horsepower and 645 foot-pounds of torque, but you've got the more modern and much, much better ZF 6-speed automatic transmission. You've got thin film instrument display. They really were a palpable improvement, the 07 onwards cars. I've been fortunate enough to drive this Arnage R. It surprised the hell out of me. Very, very understated, but very, very quick. And you can believe the mileage. I mean, you just have to sit in it to get a feel for that. So that really is a lovely, lovely example. If you prefer a flying lady on your bonnet, then there is the 2000 Rolls-Royce Silver Seraph. So that's V12. You've not got the twin turbo V8. You've got that BMW derived, an excellent BMW derived V12 engine. The 2000 Silver Seraph that we've got on offer, again, warranted to cover just 16,000 miles from new. And, they were a rare thing, those Silver Seraphs, and really just much, much underrated and nice understated design. I believe they only made 369 on the standard wheelbase and right-hand drive. So this particular car, current ownership since 2006. So that's 19 years. Just very, very elegant and well worth the guide price at 40 to 45,000. We've got a couple of lovely XKs in there, including a 1955 XK140 fixed head coupe, which has been told, is an extremely original home market example. So, that has done about 76,000 miles from new. Only 4 former keepers, said to be outstanding, well maintained by the current vendor with all receipts and invoices kept. And they are just great value for money in the current market. They really are. I mean, such elegant things. XK120, XK140, XK150, just the styling was sublime. This particular XK140 fixed head, these are rare cars in home market, guys. Jaguar were very much operating under the export or die initiative, so the vast majority went to the States. This car, UK car, guided at 35 to 45, really does look appealing. We have, again, the auction, we're very lucky, and thank you to the sellers. It's just packed full of rarities. So we have a 1950 Rolls-Royce Silver Wraith fixed head coupe. Now, this is understood to be just one of 2 cars ever bodied by Ripon Brothers with this fantastic coupe coachwork. So far, far more elegant, far more stylish, far more just out there, if you like, for a Rolls-Royce. The vast majority of Silver Wraiths were limousines or saloons, much, much more formal upright cars. So the first owner of this, who apparently was a woodworking engineer, obviously had an eye for design and a flair for it. And unbelievably, this car has remained in the first owner's family from new. So when it sells, and I expect it to sell, but when it sells under the hammer on the 25th, that will be the first time it's been out of the family in 75 years. So again, it's had restoration work in the past, but just such an elegant and imposing and rare motor car. Certainly rarer still is the one-off 1978 Caterham Super 7 twin cam racer, that James Whiting made famous in the late 70s and early 80s at drag strips, sprint courses and circuits around the country. Now, this was a car that, I mean, its best standing quarter mile time, believe it or not, is quicker than a McLaren SLR. It ran in period at Santa Pod, Blackbush, Rawton, Snetterton, York Raceway, Hethel, Goodwood and Liddon Hill, etc. It was initially done out in John Player special colours, aping the F1 cars of the time, until too many people complained and thought that it was a works Caterham. It wasn't. James Whiting was a privateer. So in 1980, he changed to the current livery, that white with the martini stripes. Again, if you have an appreciation for engineering, this car is well worth a look. It was beautifully built. It's been on the cover of magazines and books, and to certain people in Lotus and Caterham circles, it requires no introduction whatsoever. Really is a fabulous thing. Again, another piece of engineering, but perhaps not quite so obvious, is the 2009 BMW 1M 4-litre V8 Evocation. Now, this is just one of those instances where you take your hats off to somebody who's much, much cleverer than you. Now, this was professionally built by the seller as a 1M homage, but with E92 M3 running gear. So that means it's got a 4-litre V8 in it. The standard 1M was a 3-litre straight 6, so this has got a more powerful 4-litre V8. It's normally aspirated, I think it's redlined at about 8,300 RPM, something like that, so a good 2,000 RPM higher. It's all 1M body panels, I think, apart from the rear wheel arches, which are fiberglass. But, it's just a great one-off creation. There are a good selection of no reserve lots, including a 1992 Bentley Turbo R. Now, 1985 to 2025, this year marks the 40th anniversary of the Turbo R, so it would be a good example to buy and enjoy on some of the events. It's just coming to market because the vendor's trying to downsize his collection. He's spent over £18,000 fettling the car. It's one of the nicest driving Turbo Rs we've encountered. A rare thing, just a lot of history behind it. In terms of the detailed service history, I think predominantly Sergeants of Goudhurst and people like P&A Wood. It belonged to the director of a shipping line, a Greek shipping line for a time at One Hyde Park. Just a nice history to it. The other end of the scale, there is a 1932 Wolseley Hornet Eustace Watkins Coupe. Now, again, if you're a petrol head, this car's well worth a look, not just because of the ability to give it an oily rag restoration, but little details. So the side windows in the doors, they're split. So you can wind down either the front half or the back half of the window. And then just, again, you've got dual door pockets below those windows, as part of the door cards. It's just really nicely detailed. It's got a proper appeal to it, that. And again, those cars, when they were done up right, they were a little bit of a performance hot rod in their day, because you had a larger than expected 6-cylinder engine in what was essentially a 4-cylinder chassis. We've got, again, at no reserve, a 1976 Ferrari Dino 308 GT4. I think they're undervalued. Okay, it's Bertone, not Pininfarina. I like the styling. I think it's aged particularly well. And if you read any of the contemporary magazine road tests, when they put that back to back with a 246 GT, all the magazines came out and said a 308 GT4 is a better handling, better driving, better performing car. So I think time will be kind to those. We've got two Porsche 928s, which have been dragged out of a barn, but have been in regular usage up until comparatively recently. We've got a 1985 Citroën Acadienne that is a pizza van. It's a mobile pizza van. It's got a pizza oven in there, so it's a ready-made business for somebody. If you're a pizza fan like me, you probably struggle to think of the rest of it, but no, it's just great fun. The vendors put a lot of work into it. He's got another project on the go, so anybody who's looking for a side hustle, that's well worth a look. And just to prove that a car doesn't have to be valuable to be rare, there is a 1939 Austin Big 7 4-light saloon. Now, that was last on the road in 1990, still showing on the DVLA and HPI databases, recently been dragged out of a barn on a farm, appears to be substantially complete. I understand, I think they made only, sorry, that's not true. I think there are only 153 or so known survivors. So that is a rare thing indeed. So, they're just not a huge amount of money. Very, very easy to find parts for a big 7. Very characterful 30s saloon. So that just gives you a flavour, a cross-section of the vehicles we've got going under the hammer on the 25th. We'll be available, open for viewing on Tuesday the 24th from 12 until 6. Obviously, doors open on Wednesday the 25th, sale day, from 9 o'clock. The auction itself will start as 12. As ever, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ring us on 01925 210 035, or if you're looking at the individual lot listings on the website, you should find the specialist's mobile number at the bottom of those. Feel free to ring them direct, or drop us an email to info@h&h.co.uk. There are some amazing cars. It's an amazing venue. I really think it's going to be a great couple of days. We'd very much like to see you at Millbrook, but if not, please do come to one of our sales later in the year. Any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you very much.